Could this be the end of Patreon? If you don't know what I'm talking about, definitely stick around for this entire video because there's some pretty disturbing stuff going on and it doesn't look very good for Patreon. Deliver your value. Hi and welcome to Creator Fundamentals. My name is Dan Courier and I am here to help you deliver your value through online video. And if you want to receive future notifications on videos that can help you deliver your value, make sure you click that subscribe button and the bell notification icon so you don't miss a thing. So we all know about Patreon. If you haven't heard about it, you might want to look that up. But Patreon, for the rest of us, is a platform that helps creators get paid. It basically establishes a place where people who want to support certain creators can go and pledge a monthly amount to those creators. Well, recently there has been a kind of a concerning trend going on with Patreon, and that has to do with them banning creators off of Patreon itself. The most disturbing part of this is they aren't banning these creators based on something that they did on the Patreon platform. More so, they're going out beyond Patreon and examining for themselves what they think of certain creators and then choosing to ban these creators from Patreon itself. And as you can imagine, for a lot of creators, this can cause quite the significant hit to their income. All right, so to give you guys a little bit of background about what's going on here, there's this YouTuber by the name of Sargon of Akkad. My understanding of his content style is it's very free speech and focused on anti-politically correctness. So as you can imagine, some of the stuff he says or does may rub people the wrong way, but that's bound to happen in our society. In this particular instance, he went as a guest to another YouTube channel, a very small YouTube channel, or not very small, but it was around 4,000 subscribers. He was a guest on a podcast. He basically used what would typically be a derogatory racial term in a conversation where he was basically sarcastically referring to the other side of that equation during that live stream. And it was from that instance on somebody else's channel, not on the Patreon platform and not on his own YouTube channel, that was the origin of what ultimately made Patreon decide to remove him from the Patreon platform. Now, there's a couple disturbing things about this. If you look at the actual terms of service on Patreon, it actually makes reference to certain actions and conduct while you're on the Patreon platform. Jack Conte also went on other YouTube channels, I believe it was Dave Rubin or another YouTube channel, and he explicitly stated that they were only governing what happened on Patreon. Obviously, in light of this recent situation banning this YouTuber, they have now crossed out beyond the realm of Patreon and decided that they are now going to be the judge, jury, and executioner based on the entire body of work of a creator. Now, it doesn't take a lot to understand how that can be kind of sketchy, not to mention how can they equally distribute that type of assessment to creators beyond Patreon, and what are the limitations? They basically are trying to create terms of service without actually writing them down that apply through the entire internet for any given creator who happens to be using Patreon. Now, while Patreon might think they did the right thing here, the aftermath of this could be very costly for Patreon. A number of patrons are dropping their patronage to given creators, not so much because of the creators, but because they no longer want to support Patreon itself. There are also obviously there's other creators who are now being affected beyond this one creator because people are leaving en masse from Patreon. I mean, think about the situation where you can't really go by their terms of service and you have a group of people who are ultimately deciding, based potentially on their own value structure, what they determine appropriate and not appropriate. Then we start to get into like free speech and who's right is right. And it can get kind of hairy, especially for a company like Patreon. So I want to know from you guys, have you heard about this story? I'll put some links in the description so you can check out all the articles and videos that are relating to us. It's pretty fascinating stuff. I can certainly see the harm that could possibly come to Patreon because of this, under the idea that it seems like they may have flexed based on some outside pressure of what has been deemed appropriate or not appropriate by third parties. And we all know how that is on YouTube. We have all seen some of the restrictions placed on creators here on YouTube based on what advertisers are concerned with at a given time. So it's easy to see why a company can be worried about those kind of things. In this case, it's the payment processors like Visa and MasterCard, these massive organizations that obviously have a lot of weight to throw around, and something that Patreon obviously has to be aware of, being such a major platform that deals with exchanging money for creators. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see how this all pans out. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it, if you're familiar, if you're not. If you want to check out some of the links and then come back and leave your comments and tell me what you think about this and how your opinion of Patreon has changed or hasn't changed, if you plan on using them, if you're currently using them, if you've heard about or lost any of your patrons as a result of this, let me know in the comments below. And hey, don't forget, this video is sponsored by TUBEBUDDY. TUBEBUDDY is your #1 browser plugin for managing and growing your YouTube channel. It's available to download for free, and there's a link in the description below. That's all the time we have for today. My name is Dan Courier, and you're watching Creator Fundamentals. Thank you.